The Old West, the old Wild West, or in this case, the Virtual West. A place where I've spent a great many an hour, and according to my social club, I've put more hours into this than I have done in any game in my life over these last 40 years that I have been playing games. And I've had some great moments, amazing moments, probably some of the best moments I've had in any kind of game. And this is a controversial one because Red Dead Redemption isn't for everybody. It's slow paced, it's, some people would just simply say boring, but for me, this is a world where I can go and get lost in. And get lost in I have. All last year during lockdown, the one space I had to go to was this beautiful virtual space. A whole world presented to me and my friends. A space whilst hell was going on in the real world. At least in here, in this virtual space, I could keep safe. And wasn't alone, I was here with my friends. And before long, with my dear friends MJ Hazy and Girth Turpin, who I know in real life, we had suddenly amassed ourselves about 200 gigs worth of footage. Footage that we didn't know what on earth we were going to do. Until one day we had this inevitable idea, well, let's start to cut it together. Let's start to put it together and let's start to form a channel. So what would the channel be about? So we knew that one thing we wanted to create as filmmakers was we wanted to create something cinematic with the channel, something like poetry, something beautiful that would look at this world through rose-tinted spectacles. But we also wanted to capture with it the beauty, the excitement, the adventure, and answer important questions about the game. Questions like,
can you drop a steamer down Manteca Falls?
The answer to that question begins in a place called Copperhead Landing. It's located north of Saint-Denis, a beautifully rich ecosystem full of birds, amphibians, fish, and of course, the local alligator or two. But they're okay, as long as you just keep your distance, they're okay. At the start of lockdown last year, MJ Hazy and myself have been doing a very easy set of daily challenges, and at the final one we'd found ourselves at Copperhead Landing. And after completing the fishing challenge, MJ Hazy, a skilled renowned sailor in real life as well as actually in the virtual life, decided that it was time that we were going to go on a journey. He'd found himself a steamer. And after travelling up and down the shores of Saint-Denis, we knew that we wanted to put the steamer to a test. So a quick study of the map, and we knew what we wanted to do. We analysed the riverways, and we knew that if we could get past the invisible walls of Flatiron Lake and ensure that Red Dead's equivalent of the Bermuda Triangle doesn't sink our boat, we were going to be able to get this steamer down Manteca Falls. And that is how this journey of creating Vintage Posse Gaming began. So off we went that day, and with the skillful piloting of MJ Hazy, we sailed past Clemens Point and braved Flatiron Lake. We kept close to the islands, knowing that this would be our only survival. And we were right. Before long, we were arriving on Blackwater's shores. The mist began to roll in from that early morning. It was exciting. We were approaching Manteca Falls, and then the unfortunate happened. As you can see, we hit a wall, and our boat was gone. Our hopes sunk, but in the back of my head I knew that something wasn't right. I'm sure I'd heard of stories about boats going over one of the waterfalls. Yes, we'd experienced it during the rescue mission where we went over Cumberland Falls. But this was not Cumberland Falls. That we've done. That we've survived. This is Manteca Falls. So here we were, 1 year later. MJ Hazy, the designated captain of the trip, had located another steamer.
You son of a bitch!
Myself, Blagger, waited as Girth Turpin had yet to arrive, as he was off distracted with Madame Lazar's collectibles, and had also said that he had to pop by camp to pick up a nice dress to wear for this monumental trip. MJ Hazy brought in the steamer, like a pro, as we wanted to take a thumbnail picture with the steamer in the background before we left, ensuring that it didn't get grounded. Again. And then we waited for Girth. And we waited. And we waited, and we waited, until eventually he arrived. And I do say so, fashionably late in his smart new frock. We posed for some shots, and eventually decided that this shot would make a rather nice thumbnail. We were ready, and the adventure could finally begin. So with evading the obvious mutinies, the obvious threats at one another, the fact that we were on a small confined space with guns, it went well considering. With the three of us wanting to, well, I wanted to replicate Titanic, Girth did definitely not wanted to replicate Titanic, and MJ Hazy just wanted to be the Captain Birdseye of the Wild West. We got ourselves around Scarlet Meadows, heading on our journey, when we noticed on the map a red dot, a bounty. But in this case, it was going to be a friend. We were going to bring ourselves a bounty on an adventure. We located the bounty at the pirate ship. So we hogtied our bounty friend, as we felt that he might bail on us if we simply just asked him. And where would the fun be in that? And next to him was a rare bottle of Scotch whisky that I thought I'd save for the journey. So Girth, who had now taken over the job of piloting the steamer, brought it in so that we could pop our friend on board. He was very careful, again, making sure that we didn't ground the boat and cut our adventure short, and bringing it in so that we could actually throw our bounty on top. But as games do, we were not allowed. Denied to even try throwing him on board, so instead we tried the good old-fashioned lasso. But in the end it didn't work, so we sent him off on his way. No matter how many times we tried to bring a friend with us to Manteca Falls, the game really only wanted us to be 3, clearly. Anyway, we continued. Looking at where we were, Girth announced, we were crossing Flatiron Lake. We had dodged the invisible walls once more, and sights of Blackwater were upon us. And as we were getting closer, it was then that I began to feel uneasy. Uneasy in what had happened before. You see, this was our final stretch of the journey, and this was near where our boat sank previously. So the tactic of keeping tight to the riverbank was key, avoiding any invisible walls that might sink our boat instantaneously. But in our previous voyage, without Girth at the helm, that tactic had almost been our downfall. In our previous adventure, the skilled renowned sailor that is known as MJ Hazy brought the boat in and grounded it to a halt, very, very, very close to Manteca Falls. We were by Thieves' Landing, and once I'd offered him moral support, we then worked out a plan to get our steamer floating again. But the only thing we had heavy enough was our bounty wagon, and even then we were unsure. Had this been something like Grand Theft Auto, that wouldn't have been an issue to push our boat back in. But this, the Wild West, the heaviest thing in our arsenal was this wagon. Eventually, after about 10 attempts and a poor sore head for our horse, we dislodged the steamer. We were off, on our way to Manteca Falls, unaware that only moments beyond this point, our steamer would sink for our one last time. But for this one moment, we felt that it was a victory. So this time, to avoid danger, we decided to let the woman drive. After all, with all the effort of Flatiron Lake and that new dress, it seemed like the right choice. We held our breaths as we slowly but surely passed over the wreck of our previous voyage. And then, like an omen, the sun began to rise, and we knew we were so close. We couldn't believe it, a journey a year in the making. We thought that this was actually impossible, and there it was. Manteca Falls was just over the horizon. And my last thought was, I never did drink that Scotch whisky. MJ Hazy was the first to come to, or in gaming terms, respawn, when he noticed something. The news of the steamer's survival against Manteca was exciting, so we all rushed down, ready to continue the voyage down the Saint Louis River. But it wasn't to be. The engine had gone, waterlogged from the fall. So instead, we decided to send it off on another voyage instead. As we rode off, we had a thought in our head. Could we have survived that fall? Maybe if we'd taken enough tonics, perhaps we could. But that question was probably best saved for another day. Right now, Girth, it's your turn. Can you drop a steamer down Manteca Falls?
It seems you can.